Yes, sir. Councilmember Lane? Councilmember Whitmer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Here.
Vice Mayor DeGolia? And Mayor Hall.
And I was here, by the way.
Just not used to hearing kids.
No, I was talking.
So you ready?
Go for it.
Okay, well, the first
Public comment?
public comment for items that are not,
On
that
the,
are on the agenda today's study session.
although for the items that are on it, we'll also have discussion during those items, so.
Anyone in the room or online?
There's no one online.
Okay, great. Then the next item is the senior task force.
That's correct. The first item on your agenda tonight, council, is the mayor and council is the senior task force item. Back in December, we met with the senior task force on their 2025 activities and proposed activities for 2026. And they requested financial support for the senior seminar that will take place in Woodside in March. The council granted that of about $2,000 or so to provide the copy as well as the mailer. And they also mentioned a September event, and the council expressed some support for that, but noted it was part of the 26-27 budget. And also asked the senior task force to come back with a kind of a funding request for what they would expect in fiscal year 26-27 if they were going to request any funding. So we put together that on today's agenda because they are a designated group, but because the town council is taking a more active engagement with them, we thought it would be appropriate as part of this charter workshop that we've got going on with all the other town committees to have this discussion. So they are here today. You have Ken and Joanne to kind of give a very, very brief presentation. We told them they had about 10 to 15 minutes or so. That included council discussion and recommendations to staff. So they'll be really quick, and then you guys can discuss what they're requesting.
So much. So there are many folks here I haven't met yet, and I don't have a name tag. My name is Joanne. Nice to meet you all. And for those of you who've heard from us before, you know that I'm only Ken's sidekick, and I do everything he tells me.
You'd be the first.
So we're really here to share generally with you our outlook and the goals we'd like to achieve in partnership with the town and those committees as appropriate, and begin a discussion on what might budget like given some of the activities that we'd like to produce for the seniors of Atherton. We want to continue with the work, accelerate the work, make it generative. We know that local communities have many resources for seniors, but what we want to do with this new task force is create something very unique and customized to our town seniors. We know it's a completely different geography than most cities in San Mateo County. We want to respect that and honor it and work directly with our seniors to listen to their needs and then design accordingly. We also know that there are many other efforts underway. Of course, we have the general plan update, the housing element, a million other activities and initiatives that are just part and parcel of what council and George and his team are focused on. So we also want to make sure, this is one of the important goals we have, is that what we do is in alignment and integrates with everything else that's going on. So there's no duplication of effort. There's no inadvertent mistake making with respect to the Brown Act, and we know that that doesn't apply to our particular committee, but we are concerned that any interaction we might have with other committees might create a challenge in that regard. So we want really your input on how you see the opportunity to be more efficient in terms of time, staff resources, and of course, money. So we come to you in the spirit of sustainability, growth, and adding to the commitment that council made 2 or 3 years ago now to be an age-friendly community. And our particular focus, of course, is on our older adults.
To add to that, in your package, you have a lot of information from us. It gives you the history of where it came from, where it's going. A couple of quick things. We went into this being told everyone that our seniors were lonely and needed a Tinder connection somewhere. What we found is very few seniors in this town are lonely. They got so many things going on, they don't have time to do something else. They have limited things in life. One is time, the other is money, and they want to focus it on their friends and family. And guess what? Of all those things, time is the thing they have least of. Every hour we take of their lives is an hour less they got to do something else. So we are trying to make sure whatever we do is very time efficient. In fact, saves them time. We started out just doing a program because that was what it was worth. We learned a lot from it. What we found is our goal, and this is what your feedback on direction is, to only do things that meet our standards, which are, it's gonna save, first of all, it's important to the senior. They really want it, not we think they want it, but they want it. And if we think they want it, but they've never heard of it, we gotta flush that out with them and see if they do want it. So they've gotta want it, and it's gotta save them time in their life. Because if we didn't move forward, it would take them many more hours to learn something or make a decision. And actually, that in fact, it gets them to a decision. Because virtually all of the seniors who we know, including myself, are spending our life kicking the can down the path. We're not making some real important decisions we should make. We know we should do them, but we just can't get there. So our goal is to do things that are really important to seniors. They want, save them time, and they can make a decision at the end. So this session, as an example, the session we have set up down on Woodside for March and April, which there's a flyer here in large font for seniors, basically is one on dementia and cognitive ability. And it's designed, the first one, to give you early signs of what could be a problem, and if so, what you can do about it. Here's the plan you should have if you see these. And then the second follow on is, if those signs have gone further, here's what they are, here's your options now. Here's some senior living, some other places, here's what they cost, that sort of thing. So it's an issue on what should you know as you age about what might happen with your cognitive ability. And again, it's designed to save you time from looking around for this information with a group of people that are your peers. They may be different sexes, races, doesn't matter, but they're your economic sort of socioeconomic peers in Woodside and Atherton that are in the same kind of larger homes and larger things. And then let you make a decision. You don't have to make a decision. But if you don't make a decision, that's a decision. And so the idea is to give you those pools. So that's where we're headed. So we're saying we do a couple of these a year, not many, because you can, and there's other sessions that you can get every week in other locations that are purely lectures. This is an interactive discussion. These sessions would be at least 50% you asking the neurologist, hey, what if this happened? For example, at a session we had with them in planning for this, one of his points was, be careful what you tell your doctor. If it gets in your file, you can't drive again. So be careful what words you use. Here are the words you don't use. That sort of thing. And so what we want to do is find a way to help our seniors with their time and their decision making. Now, so far we've done that for almost no money. We spent kind of $3,000 a year of our 24 million that this town spends. And if we want to really make it further down that path, it'll take some more money. We don't know how much it'll take because we haven't planned it out yet until we get to the details. And one of the things we find inefficient is dealing as an affiliate is kind of like we do something, we bring it in, it's looked at, put it back. We don't have time our life is short. We don't have time to play with that. We want to get efficiency to make the decisions. We think the way to do that is maybe to have a subcommittee of the council be part of our planning group when we do things. So we can make those decisions early and then and then you guys approve it later, but give us direction while we're doing it rather than 6 months later or 2 months later, whatever. So
Is that your request?
My request
Are
is,
we here because you're requesting us to create a subcommittee of the council?
that's not why you're here. I think you're here for a bigger reason, but.
No, we're not here for this. We're here for a whole bigger.
Yeah, so I'm saying, yeah, but
But why are we here with you? That's
with me. For two reasons. First of all, I want you to understand what we've done and tell us whether that's the right thing or not. Do you agree? Are we heading in the right direction? Is it the wrong direction? Two, I'd like to hear
from you what you think the town should be doing for seniors. I don't have your vision, I don't have your input as to, gee, how important is it? What kind of things should we do? How much effort should we put into it? How much money should we think about? I don't have any of that. We're bringing them to you and then you send it back, I want to go Bud Light. I don't, it's not what we want. We want you to give us the direction so we don't waste our time. A way to do that, Rick, might be a subcommittee, but I don't know. You guys gotta tell us what's the best way. We're looking for your direction intimately all the time, is what I'm saying.
I think there's also the financial component that you were hoping that we could give you a lump sum in our annual budget.
Not yet. We don't know that number yet.
Okay.
But we're not asking for a number. All right, we don't know what the number is.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a comment. So I hear what you're saying, that you have a lot of ideas and you've implemented some of them and you're wanting to do about 2 events a year.
Correct.
Understand. I think the event that you did earlier last year, or late last year, whenever it was, at Holbrook Mall Park, that went well. That was good. So you've got another one planned for March here, and that's up to you. We are not the senior task force. You have created this entity. You are a resident-led, independent group that are doing good things for the seniors. It's up to you. It's not up to council. Council creates policy. Council does not create activities or direction for resident-led. Excuse me, Ken,
No,
I'm
no, I'm just
speaking, do
thinking-
not interrupt me. Okay, so as far as funding, providing funding for coffee or something for your events, that's something that council will deliberate on. But I, as a council member, I'm not gonna be part of creating a vision for your group. Because your group creates the vision. That's what you want to do. And that's just my personal opinion. If any of the other council members want to opine on that.
I think, first of all, the creation of the senior task force and everything you said, Joanne, is terrific. I'm 100% in support of it. I think you're right. There's a sizable percentage of our population that are seniors, including
Us,
probably most of us. And,
notwithstanding the mayor though, but you know, she was sick.
and
It was
But,
okay.
you know,
there's
Well,
this job is aging. Yeah, and that's exactly right. And who isn't there is likely to get there, because people tend to live in this town for a long time for good reasons.
Yeah.
And, I think that, I unfortunately wasn't able to attend the event that you had in the late summer, but everything I heard about it was good. I think that the subject matter of the specific events that you've talked about seem very well grounded, and exactly what you said, which is targeting what seniors in Atherton want, not coming in with a preconception, or at least not being driven by that preconception, being willing to adjust it based on what you find. I think that's exactly the right approach. And I feel very encouraged by that. I agree with what Elizabeth said. It's really a function of the independent organization to make something happen. It's not part of the council, and the council, that we've got lots of other things on our plate that if this is gonna happen, it's not gonna be because of us, it's gonna be because of you. But I think your direction's good. I think that your sensitivity to seniors is superb. And I think that's the right way to focus, so thank you.
Can I clarify? Sorry for the meeting, but I wasn't being clear. I'm not asking you to sit at the table and help us decide what the details of what things should be. What I don't have a good feel for is whether the council really cares about seniors.
Well,
I have no
let
idea.
me jump in there, Okay, so just turning 73, speaking from a platform that's appropriate.
I'm still the oldest of the four.
So here's the chicken and egg thing I'm feeling like going on here.
The role of an independent group is to formulate itself, either that a groundswell of 300 of the 1,700 seniors in town says, you know what, we really want to have a pickleball tournament, or we want to do this or that. And so I think my vision for what your group would do is to generate the excitement about something, whatever. It could be the annual event, it could be an activity. Back to the idea of what seniors like. I think social and interaction is a big thing, and I think that fits the town. So if I were to say anything to the group, the two of you basically, figure out how to get more people engaged, and either by asking us to include something in the newsletter and just sort of drum up the support for the effort. To a certain extent of it, it seems like you're pulling stuff in, and it's not being sort of groundswell. So I think the important thing for the council to get involved with it is the groundswell. All right, so there's been a groundswell of environmental stuff, and so we've doing a number of activities there. A library, things like that. So you can feel the groundswell coming from the community and bringing it to the council. That's the same thing I would look for from this group, saying, okay, here's 10 of us coming together, and what we found is this, and we really could use some advice around how best to leverage that. And we might say, well, then talk to this group, or have you looked at grants or other types of things, or it could be something to support. But the idea being that you've got to have the groundswell. You've got to create that.
Yeah, what's groundswell mean to you?
Meaning people in the community come forward and say.
You mean we come to this meeting with 10 more people?
No, I meant with your own group. Like
So, I mean,
I've started multiple .orgs, and the .orgs I've started, it started with like 4 people that had an idea about what to do.
Yeah.
And then they figured out a way to get people interested in it, and all of a sudden they're raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for the activity.
If I may, I would like to remind everyone that the groundswell was the cafe effort. We convened a number of residents, mostly they were seniors.
Right.
And we identified quite a long list of quality of life elements in the town that a committee, not necessarily specified towards any particular age group or interest, could work on in concert with the town to expand our age-friendly plan. The council decided not to participate with the effort that was going on at the county level, but instead to do something that was precisely Atherton. And we were the groundswell out of that effort. We identified in that effort that it was seniors who came to answer questions about what they need and what they want. It was seniors who have the time to participate and contribute and engage with the town to make it better. And we're operating on their behalf. They are the groundswell, and the groundswell started.
And then Bill has something to say, and then I'm gonna say something, because we're getting tight.
Yeah. So first off, Ken and Joanne, I think that the interest in this has grown, and kudos to y'all for getting it started. I think you've had a couple very good and very pertinent meetings with people that attracted people, and hopefully they'll generate more people to come. My recommendation on, where we should go. First off, as you have your sessions, perhaps at the end, that I'm sure you do, say, what else would you guys like to see? Where else should we go? Okay, for the next session and the next session thereafter. As well as, I think, being a conduit, because what's one of the things that Ken brought up, a conduit for these are the things that the city is doing. For example, we're having our Earth Day activity. for example, we're having, the giveaway, electronic, recycling as well as the compost giveaway. And making sure that the senior population knows what's going on so that they can participate if they so choose. And the fact that you're aligned with another similar community, I think that really helps because we're getting, the insight from both of those communities. But I think that, your first two opportunities about how can I age in place or should I not age in place? Where should I age? And, the dementia and, mindfulness, that Ken put together with the Kensington people, I think we're right on. And maybe we need to repeat those if there was interest in doing that. But I think that at the end of each of your meetings, you should take a poll as to what else should you have? And I know that
Maybe
Ken.
collect some money.
Yeah, okay. And then the other thing you can do is also, understand what we're doing, as the town, and making sure that information is going out. Not only for these are the activities we're doing, but we can make, and you have access to the website, where we are looking for people to be on committees or where we're having information or committee meetings where somebody might be interested in. You could be a conduit out to that. Maybe we get more people involved in some of our committees. So, I think that what you're doing is great, but I think it's got to be, pull from your audience as to where you want to go. And then with that, you might come back with, hey, I need some more money. And when we're putting our budget together, starting next month, we'll work with Robert on how many mailers you're going to want to have and things like that. One of the things that we can't do, which I saw in your write-up, was, you don't have everybody's address, you don't have everybody's phone number, and, we can't just be a conduit to just give that out. You'll have to collect that type of information yourself. Anyway, those are my comments, thanks.
So now it's my turn. What everyone said was right, you guys are doing a great job. I mean, this has been 1 year, you've done 3 workshops that have been growing in attendance, which I think is a good indicator of how well you guys are doing. So you're starting something new, there's kind of 2 things that make that hard, you need bodies and you need money. And I think having the certainty of knowing that you have money. And so from my perspective, I would be in favor of having you guys in our budget. I don't know, $10,000, I have no idea what you guys need. If you set the goal of we're gonna do 2 events a year, 3 events a year, it's gonna cost X amount of money. Come up with that number. I would be in favor of having you guys have that certainty for the next year, so you guys know you have the money for the next year and you guys can start building the bodies. And then just come to us with, here's what we're gonna do. And I think you guys are an independent group, so we want you that you're clearly creating great events without our help already. But I think having produced events before, having to come back to us repeatedly to ask for money for coffee, money for a mailer, it slows you down. So I think from my perspective, I would want you guys to have the comfort of knowing you have that money and you have that backing as you guys build your list, your bench of volunteers, all that kind of stuff, if you have our backing and getting this thing off the ground. And with the goal that eventually, once you have these recurring events, it'll show up in the Athertonian instead of having to do mailers every year. But as you get bigger and more established, you won't need as much specifically very expensive postcard mailers, because you'll have your list together, you'll have all this stuff together. So from my perspective, let's help you in that way so that you guys can feel free to unlock your creativity and start building your volunteer base.
Can I ask a follow-up question about that, to the city manager?
Yeah.
Or to, is Robert or Bobby? Yes, not a Bobby, yes. I missed that. Do we, provide that type of ongoing, budget-related funding to independent groups already?
We do not.
Because like even the EPC is a standard, I mean, it's recognized committee, and they have to even come to us with their budget amounts, right?
Correct.
On
All of
the
the town, none of the town committees have any funding or budget. Any events or activities they want to do, they've got to come to the council to do that and get that approved. There are no designated groups, and the task force is a designated group, like the Dames used to be, or the Park Foundation is, and groups like that. The town hasn't provided any funding to any of those groups, but they are free to come to the town and have these.
George, where do they get the
So
money?
I hear what you're saying, to kind of give them a sense of security, but I don't think that that's, I mean, I don't think we've denied yet. So our track record is pretty good, that if a committee comes and says, you know, we want to do this, we want X, Y, and Z, you know, we're pretty good at approving that. So I just think there's a checks and balance thing on that. So I hear what you're saying, I just have a different view about that. So,
And more like if we say, I mean, this is what we do with EPC. We do say you get $10,000 for
But
birthday.
EPC is a town committee.
Right, but then they, knowing they have that money, come up with a plan against that budget. So it's a little bit different where they know they have the money so they can build ideas against knowing they have that money. And so,
but we've designated them as a committee, and so they've got to have some kind of
And
funding.
they don't get the money.
No.
If it's in the budget, then it would come back to the council to approve it. So it doesn't mean that they have it to go spend.
And the council was very specific with the EPC over the last couple of years anyway. It doesn't go to the EPC, it's actually a town event that staff organizes and manages with input from the EPC.
yeah. I guess I
We need
maybe
to move
wasn't
on.
more clear. I'm not saying cut them a $10,000 check and like, peace out, good luck to you. I'm saying we have $10,000 in our budget as a line item that they know that they can, it's a little bank for them that they can come pitch their ideas against and know that they're gonna get a yes. And because it's slow to come in front of the council when you're trying to plan an event, you have to come and go over, I having flashbacks to when I did birthday 3 years ago, and I had to come and ask for $400 because we went over our budget. It was a 40-minute meeting of me telling you guys that we need to buy burgers. So it's just like, you know, the prep, the time for the council, the time for the staff, we're always gonna say yes. So why don't we give them that comfort of knowing we're gonna say yes, and then they can pitch, get us our feedback on the ideas.
I don't think we,
One policy way the council could address that is to direct staff to include in the budget something for senior programs and services as a policy line item. $1,000 or whatever number you want to put in there. That number is governed by staff. And the group could then work with the town and then staff would present, hey, this is what we're gonna do this year with the senior task force under our $10,000, $5,000, whatever line item that is for the year. But you can make that as a policy decision as part of the budget process.
See, that format for me works. The other thing about that too, is that I would, along with that, I would want something that said, okay, so how's the group doing? What does your mailing look like? What is the interact? So I'm looking for the group to be a viable group growing. And in the early stages, it's gonna go up and down, that's the way how small groups are. But the idea that there be a set aside that the staff would be responsible for, would be the way to go with it. But then it's up to the group to really start getting its membership up.
And in answer to your question, how do the other groups like the foundation and the former Danes do it? They raise their own money.
So they
Everyone.
go out and get donations.
Yeah.
What about, we adapt now, get ready?
They don't get anything
Same
from
thing.
us.
Isn't that funded somewhat by the police? department?
Adapt to get ready does not get money from the town. It's a set aside fund that staff manages through the police department to assist with programs and supportive emergency preparedness.
Right, okay, that'd be similar then.
Yeah, so.
Okay. So
It's a
we're-
similar
We
policy.
need to
so
move
we're
on.
everyone's
Okay.
getting it. We need to move on.
Thank you guys, appreciate it, thanks.
So,
Okay.
yeah, hopefully that was.
Thanks, thank you.
We always get there.
Okay.
Okay.
This is still off the table.
Cool,
Me too.
okay.
Thanks for your input.
Don't forget the $400 for burgers.
Yeah.
Item number 2 is the joint workshop between the council and the chairs, vice chairs, and the various town advisory committees. This Today's meeting serves as the kickoff to a series of individual council committee meetings that the plan is doing. The overall objective is to strengthen the alignment between the council's policy direction and the work of its advisory bodies, while reinforcing and understanding the shared goals and expectations of both of those groups. So today's workshop is going to focus on two areas. The first is sort of a council discussion on what the role of a council member liaison to a town committee is, and that helps both inform the council's perspective on that, as well as the committee, so they have an expectation of that liaison's role in the group. And then the second is a refresh of each individual committee charter, and I believe you have a representative from all of the town's committees here at the table, at least one and or two. We can go through the role of the liaison first. You have in your packet City Council handbook, the rules of procedure, and the committee resolution. The information in the staff report about the role of council liaisons is pulled from a couple of those sources and is written out in the staff report. I won't read it, but it's in the staff report. So at this point, it's the council's opportunity to talk about its perspective as for the role of a liaison. But before I do that, just wanted to mention there are sandwiches, drinks, cookies, chips, or whatever back in here and out here, and feel free to have any of that as we go along. Turning back over to the council for that first discussion.
Okay, so does anyone want to say anything about council liaison? Does anyone in the public have any thoughts about?
I'll say something.
Sure.
I know, I think, being on council, you're a publicly elected official. Being the chair or on, the committees, you're appointed, by council. And sometimes I think council members go into these committees that they are assigned to. And, because we are always kind of making decisions up here, and talking about stuff and putting our opinions out there. Sometimes I think the committee members look to us to be more than what we should be in a committee situation. We are literally there as a liaison to make sure that the committee doesn't go off the rails, kind of a thing, that they conduct themselves in a, without the Brown Act and, in a manner of propriety that the committee is assigned to. And so, but sometimes we offer our opinions and kind of sway the direction of the committee. This is just me talking off the top of my head, and we should not do that, in my opinion.
That's currently how your policy is written, yes.
Is it? Okay. I didn't read it, but that's, does that make sense?
I read it and that's what it says.
Is that well, I see you have some yellow highlights.
Well,
but
yeah,
I didn't.
well, see, the thing about it is, I don't know if it's because I'm a new guy that says drink coffee.
That would be nice. So, so we have to kind of, create our boundaries, when we're a council liaison. We're not part of the decision making of the board.
Well, I think that is a really important distinction.
Mhm.
And the committees are advisory committees to us, created around subject matter areas that we, as a whole town, driven by the council, but I think with lots of input from residents, we define what the areas are that are most important for us to obtain advice. And that's the purpose, and the intended purpose anyway, of the subject areas that each of the committees are created around. And to me, that word advisory is critical whenever I'm thinking about the committees that I am a liaison to. Because I want those committees and the committee members to share with me, but really me as the representative of the council, of what they think about the subject matter and what they suggest the council do with that issue. And so advisory is like the critical thing. And when I'm on that committee, I don't articulate my opinions in general about the subject. I really want I want to hear from the committee members. I want to hear what people think. I mean, it's hard to get people to give you good advice. And it's hard to motivate people to take their free time and to spend that on these advisory committees. So we should do everything we possibly can to recognize that effort with respect and encouragement to hear from each member of the committee or anyone that wants to share their opinions. And that's what I see my role as, is really to draw people out, not with my opinion, but with my encouragement for them to share their opinions. And that includes on the subject matter that they've defined. And I think the committee, I'm on Park and Rec is very good about defining subject matter areas. It doesn't always have a lot of historical perspective, but it works to bring that to bear. And and I think, the park is a big topic for the town, and there's lots of issues there. And I think that I think what Elizabeth said is right. There are times where council members have their opinions and they want sort of to give some direction, but that's really not the role of the liaison. And in my perspective, you need to resist that because you're kind of naturally drawn into that realm by being elected to the council, but that's not your job on a committee.
So I don't disagree with anything that's been said. But I also believe that there are certain things that, committees take direction from the council. If the council wants the committee to do something, they ask the committee to do something. So there are some guardrails that get put up that are on one side or the other. And, I think the liaison needs to try and stay within the guardrails, and the committee needs to stay within the guardrails of what they've been asked. A committee can't just decide they're going, even though the council is doing something and has been directed to do something and is making the decision that if the committee thinks that they should be doing it, that, there needs to be some adjustment. As well as, in areas of where the committee is going, it's not necessarily a carte blanche. Okay, so I've been on some committees where things are going kind of haywire. And needs to be reined in some of those cases when George has been there, then George reins them in. So that's, you need to make sure that you're in the guardrails, I guess is the thing. Okay.
If I could, it can be hard to tell for our committees when council does discuss a subject, whether you want us to engage or not. And I don't know if the liaison necessarily knows because it's not something that council discusses, like whether it's okay for the committee to also look at it or not. Because sometimes we're told we shouldn't look at it, but we don't know if that's the opinion of the council or if that's the opinion of the liaison. So should we ask the liaison, is that the clear direction of the council or not? Is that the way to resolve it? But that's a little bit challenging, that individual liaison's kind of authority be that direct, especially because we have to work with that person. But I think it's a fair question from because if the liaison kind of says we can't look at it, then we can't look at it. But maybe the rest of the council members want us to look at it, but we don't know.
But I think you can get direction both from the liaison and from the staff person that's there. The staff person will have some perspective on whether the subject matter is appropriate for the committee to opine.
Yeah, semi-related question, actually. On the subject matter of, being able to advise city council, I'd love the ability to do research before meetings, to go in so I can have well-rounded, well thought through opinions on things. Now, I try sometimes to go off and pick a the subject and I'll look at what cities are doing in a particular area. But then I keep getting reminded that Atherton is, and I'm just gonna use this word because I hear it get used a lot, special, or different. Like, well, you know, oh, what applies to that does not apply to us, that type of thing, because we're different and we don't have a commercial downtown. We don't have these X, Y, and Z. And so I would love to learn either from other people on advisory boards or city council, what are the best ways that we can prepare ourselves for these meetings so that we can advise you correctly?
Good question.
And I think staff has a big role in that.
Exactly, I
Yeah.
just need the staff report.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
yeah, I think the key thing, well, first of all, I'm not elected, I'm appointed, so I don't have the same problem.
You're definitely not a long time.
So your time is ticking away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the way I think about it is, if you were to ask me, what would the council think on a subject that hadn't been clarified, my answer would be, I'll have to check back with you on that, which means that it'll be another meeting. Or maybe I can text somebody to find out. But between the staff member and the liaison on a situation like that, it's incumbent upon the council member to say, let me check. The other thing too is that I'm just starting with you all, and my whole thing has been trying to make sure that I'm listening the whole time and taking notes. So the idea would be that my primary job is to report back to the council what the thinking of the committee is. And that's the number one job. Number two job in my mind is to make sure that you don't accidentally fall off the rails in terms of Brown Act and legal things, just for your own protection in the cities. Those two things are the primary roles that I'm thinking about as I go into the meeting. Now, then, in terms of the subject matter, if you go off the rails on the subject, I'll report back to the council, they're off the rails. and then there'll be direction from that, I'm sure. So the idea would be that my number one job is to make sure that you're comfortable with what I'm reporting is what you're actually doing.
And some of that question might be answered as we go through the charters and.
Can I add one thing? I'm sorry. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm the city attorney for the town of Atherton, but just as a reminder that the liaisons and the scope of the charters and the way that this was structured was carefully done to avoid any kind of Brown Act violations, which is why you have one liaison and an alternate. And at no point in time should the liaison and the alternate both be acting together, right? It's either one or the other. The other reason why it's critically important that the liaison is not expressing their personal viewpoints at commission meetings is because committees and commissions are advisory in nature, and the decision is ultimately going to rise back up to the council, at which point the council makes a decision before the public, and that's the point in time where the public gets to hear each council member's opinion on something. So again, all of this language and the attachments to the staff report reflect this intent, and that's why it's critically important that we kind of stay aligned with the structure of this. But of course, part of the agenda item, and as the city manager was just saying, was the second piece is the charters of each of these groups and whether the council wishes to make any changes or provide direction on that. So with that, George, I'll let you segue.
Council's ready to move in that direction.
Can I ask you a question? Am I out of place? When you say we get off the rails, what does get off the rails mean? You both you guys have said when you get off the rails. Explain to me what, if you're in the EPC, for example, what's off the rails for us to talk about?
In my mind, it'd be something like, well, I'm going to talk to the head of the building department to tell them to do this. So jumping over the top of the chain of responsibility and leadership of the staff of the city, or going out and saying, I think it's important for us to find out this out. So let's meet with the vendor to go over this without involving staff. Those would be two hard lines where I'd say, wait a minute, you've got to understand that there's There's a role that the staff plays in this, and that's theirs.
So, but the question I've always had on this is, can we on the EPC only work on what's given to us by the staff? Or can we actually be looking beyond what the staff gives us as things that might be important for the town? And we do research on it, make no commitments, nothing else, and then bring it back to the EPC to have discussions.
That's a great segue into the charter.
Right.
Well, and can I just say that there are 4 possible ways that an item comes back, and this is what the council has already adopted, which is a future agenda item request through the city manager by working with the liaison and by having the council give direction. So again, the town has already considered the subject matter and the types of discussions that each committee or commission can have and how those agenda items can come before you.
So committee charters are established, as the city attorney mentioned, through the resolution that governs committees that's attached as an attachment to the staff report. Atherton committees are intentionally structured as advisory bodies, not working committees. Their role is generally limited to advising the council on matters within the scope of their council-approved charter. Committees play an important role in identifying policy issues like we already discussed, but within that framework, the following general principles apply to all of our committees. They're advisory only within the limits of their charters. They don't have decision-making or directive authority. They don't have independent budgets or expenditure authority. They don't direct town vendors or consultants. They don't direct town staff. Staff are liaisons to help facilitate the meetings and ensure council policy and the Brown Act are complied with, and they convey committee input to the council as appropriate. Committees discuss matters only within their charter, and any request for additional staff work has to be approved either by the city manager if it falls within the town's existing priorities, or by the city council if it does not. And any work involving vendors must be approved and managed by staff. Committees may not take up matters outside their charter without explicit authorization from the city council. And council liaisons have both the authority and responsibility to intervene if comments or conduct at a meeting become inconsistent with council policy or roles. That's kind of the going off the rails conversation. So there's a list of each of the committees in this staff report and in the attached resolution. We can start with any one of the committees the council desires to begin with.
Before we do that, can I just get clarify the answer to my question? So the answer to the question on prepping appropriately is to contact the analysts and whatnot who work with us and ask them for information.
Yeah, for example, if you have something you want to bring up to the EPC, you could meet with Christabel and say, hey, this is an important issue I think the EPC could take up. And Christabel will then go back to the charter and say, yeah, this is consistent with our climate action plan, or this is consistent with council policy. So we'll put a discussion on the next agenda. They have to agendize it, and then the committee can talk about it.
Okay. And as far as figuring out what those important items are, what is the research that you suggest that we do so we know that coming in, other than just obviously talking to citizens is an important way to do that, but for things such as I'm on the environmental programming committee. Big part of that for me is if we have this goal for a certain decrease in our carbon emissions, well, then it's finding out what those amounts are and whatnot. Now we do have our dashboard, but it's been static for the since 2021 or something like that. So there's no new information on there. How do I go about then finding that information without stepping on toes?
So I think staff's actually working on updating that climate action dashboard, and we'll bring that back to the EPC. And the climate action plan is a very broad document. As you know, it's got a lot of different programs and policies, some of which the council has articulated as priorities, and some of which they've articulated as, yeah, this is something good to do, but it's not at the top of our list. And that's where staff can help identify which is which for the EPC and where you can focus some of that attention.
Can I follow?
Two hands up.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
go throw those within, right, just roll.
Sustainable San Mateo, a lot of information is publicly available through Sustainable San Mateo.
Yeah.
That's right, I know, that's an organization.
Yeah.
We give them money every year.
I know, but so,
Thank you.
did you know about that?
I didn't,
Yeah,
thank you.
and it's publicly, they've got big websites, they've got tons of information. And so I think that might be a resource for research.
Absolutely.
And I
Or
think
we
their
partner with them
dashboard
on
may
funding,
be
yeah.
up to date.
Yeah.
No.
It's not, just for the record, it's not.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Oh,
And they're far bigger than
it's
us.
not?
I gave Sean Carcom talking to a couple weeks ago, and like White House needs money to get
Okay.
these numbers updated because
Couple weeks ago.
everyone,
So
yeah.
now he's sick.
No, it was no, it's like, it takes a lot of work to figure out your I mean, I can really get into the weeds on this, which I will not, but there's a lot of data you have to pull to figure out our specific carbon emissions for this town in particular, and we lean on the county to provide a lot of that data, which is not currently funded. I asked him what his plan was, I was like, we're halfway through our cycle,
Yeah, and
how are we supposed to know if we're gonna hit our goal? I mean,
Right.
it's like,
many of our
people need
numbers
this,
were
oh my
estimates
god,
anyway.
so we can't, are gonna, well, you wanna join?
So would you like to start with audit and finance or any of the other committees?
Rick had some.
Okay, Rick wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think your question is a really important question, and I would expand George's response. It's not just to the staff person. You can meet with the staff person, that's good. You can meet with the liaison, and you can meet with another committee member and talk about it. And there's no limitation on your ability to talk to any of those three people. You can't meet with two committee members, but you can meet with one committee member. And you should, because that way you enrich your thinking process and you look at what you want to examine. And then you can bring it back to the committee as a suggestion for the whole committee to focus on if it's either a new area or a nuanced focus on what the committee is in general focused on. And with EPC, the climate action plan is a perfect example because it's very comprehensive. And it takes a lot of time to redo it, but there's lots of detail in it. And focusing on any one of those detail needs to be refocused on in order to update it because energy changes, times change, people's use changes, and it's totally appropriate to examine that. But I think it's not something that you need to think about alone. It's something you need to share with others, and staff, liaison, and another committee member is the right way to focus. And I know for the committees I'm on, I mean, I don't get many calls about them outside of the committee meeting, but I get asked real questions at the committee meeting all the time, and sometimes outside of the committee meeting. And I think, it's honorable for people to spend their time to look into these issues. We want to encourage that. That's really valuable to us. So you should pursue that.
As I mentioned just a few minutes ago, many of the percentages that they've given us when we built that climate action plan were estimates or a fraction of what the county had as a whole. They weren't based on facts, which we brought up, but that's how they were. Okay, so, in some of those cases where you can get more quantified data based on, our demographics, that would certainly probably improve our numbers, I would expect, as opposed to leave them at the lower rate. So you just know that as you're moving forward, looking at that it's not always was based on facts.
Thanks for the context.
I mean, I think the way Ken got his park initiative is a good example that he had an idea. Decarbonizing the landscaping equipment at Holbrook Common Park. Got it on the EPC agenda, you guys all voted for it. Proposal came in front of the council, and then we opined on it. And that's not something that it worked under the auspices of the climate action plan that we're trying to decarbonize all of our operations. And so that's how it fell within the umbrella of the Environmental Programs Committee, but that was an idea that was generated by the EPC that came in front of us that we then said yes to. So that's kind of what I feel about it. So anyways, so I think the goal now is for us to walk through all of the different descriptions of each committee to see if there's any questions or changes that we wanna make to all of them, so,
You start with the quietest group here.
yeah.
Audit and finance, but before I do that, your comment about how that issue matriculated up to the council is very important, because one of the other comments I wanted to say was, once an issue is before the city council, and decisions on how the city council decides to deal with it is up to the city council at that point. It may reject the recommendation of the committee, it may choose to change the direction of the committee, or just widely accept it, or accept it with a different approach. It may or may not make its way back down to the committee for input, or it may go in a entirely different direction. That is totally the policy call of the city council to make at the time. So, on finance?
Before we start that,
Yep.
one of the things that you and I have talked about is doing these annual long-term
Yes.
planning meetings for the committee. Should we talk about that first before we?
I actually mentioned that at the very beginning of this, that we were gonna have that, this is the kickoff meeting, one-on-one meetings of the city council of each committee, at least once per year.
Cool, so I think for EPC in particular, because it is humongous climate action plan with like a million ways we could go. I think having a joint meeting between EPC and city council for us to like get in the weeds on climate action plan and actually like help you guys narrow and get some consensus, is I think EPC having, that's where I came from. You could go 1,000 different directions, you focus on water conservation, carbon emission, like carbon emissions, there's a lot and it can feel overwhelming, and so I think having us all in the same room to really get into the weeds on what are our focuses for the next couple of years. Well, I assume that parks, audit standards, this,
It's true of everything.
yeah, so I think it'll be nice for us to have some consensus for long-term planning so that you guys can start have some understanding of what the council direction is when it comes to coming up with ideas and stuff like that, so let's talk audit and finance.
Audit and finance. So that's A through F. Audit and finance has A through F in terms of its charter. Makes recommendations to the city council in all matters pertaining to town finances. Discusses and consults with the city manager on any matter pertaining to the budget, capital spending plan, or long-range financial plan for the town. Upon request, make recommendations to the city council on all matters pertaining to the town's annual audit. Assist staff as needed in the provision of oversight to the annual audit process. Upon request, advise the council regarding appointment of outside auditors. And assist staff in the as needed review of the proposed audit scope prior to the commencement of the annual audit. So that's A through F in their charter. Welcome to add, discuss, change, or accept as is.
Anyone want to make any changes?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, that's cool.
On C. If the committee has a comment on or concern on the annual audit, I don't think we should have to say, do you have to meet? I would like those to come forward.
So your comment is on the upon request?
Yeah. I just say make recommendations to the council on all matters pertaining to the annual audit.
I think that makes it stronger,
I do too.
you know? Yeah, I guess we were being polite, upon request.
Yes, I know.
Dear audit and
So there's
finance
some,
committee.
there's some
Dear
things we
gentle
want
readers.
to be upon request.
Yeah,
But this one, I think you're right. I think it makes it stronger. I think that's a good suggestion.
You guys have any opinions about?
I would just say, based on the last 4 years that I've been on the committee, we have a more of a role in the budget than is reflected here. There are joint meetings, it's advisory, stress that, but it's not just meeting with you on the budget.
Right.
So I would recommend tweaking it for that reason, adding something.
So
about that.
what would be said?
Instead of discuss and consult with the city manager, which
Well,
item are you?
Yeah, instead of that, we're involved in, these 4 or 5 annual meetings about the budget.
Yeah.
So,
actively participate in it.
Yeah, we can add a bullet point to that one, actually.
Yeah.
Participate on the council on an annual basis in development of the budget or something like that.
And the mayor's always involved, right?
Well, we invite every single budget workshop that the council does is a joint meeting with the finance committee.
I don't know if we need another bullet point. I think we could revise this. I mean, this really puts the committee in the position of discussing the budget with the city manager and not beyond the city manager. And I think that the comment is, well, in fact, they're engaged in that at a level beyond the city manager. They're talking to the council, that you're talking to Robert, which is effectively the city manager because of the report structure. But it's kind of like the same thing that Bill said about upon request on item C. I think that bullet could be changed rather than to make it subordinate to the city manager.
You can do city manager and city council.
Just say participate with the city council in development of a budget. That's what they do. They're invited to the meeting to participate.
I would also add to the description that there's 2 members of city council on this committee who are actual members of the committee versus liaisons. So
Right.
it's not.
Right.
In
It's
its
different.
description, it's different. So
It's
we
the
count
mayor
towards
and
quorum.
vice mayor.
Well, the first bullet is make recommendations to the council pertaining to town finances. That's gonna have something to do with the budget. And then the second one gets a little more specific with the budget. It could also be just make recommendations related to the budget.
Capital spending.
And I don't think it has to be limited to the town council, right? There's some things that they can deal with you and it doesn't even have to come to the council.
So maybe revise these and make recommendations to the city manager and city council on any matter pertaining to the budget.
Well, I would emphasize this, the participation in
Yeah,
the process. It's not like the committee forms and votes on one position and then carries that forward. It's every member that attends is participating in the process.
and since we do it jointly, participate with the city council in development of an annual budget.
I can tweet something like that and bring that back to the council.
Great.
The only thing I would say on that is that if the final thought would be for council final approval, right? So to just make it clear that, that it's. for the
Final
council.
approval is the council.
Right. Right.
I'd say also run it by the committee. See what their thumbs.
I would, and I'm very new, so. Fairly new and subbing for our vice chair, but it seems to me all of this is great if everything's going great. But if anything gets off the rails, like, we have great staff right now. But if there's errors or if there's problems in the budget or things are going off the rails, I think it's really important that there is a way for the committee to get directly to the council and make their opinion known, because that's really what, you don't really need the committee if everything's great and it's in pretty good shape.
But
But you do need them if it's not.
they would do that through the staff man.
I
That
think that's a
would be
more
Robert.
direct way, because as the mayor indicated, there's actually 2 members of the council, the mayor and the vice, or the mayor and appointed member, serving on that committee as not really liaisons, but acting discussion members of that body.
What I'm saying is you always want to look for, okay, what if something goes sideways? Because that's when you really need it. What if we have a staff member who's really not performing, or, there's a bad hire? I would assume that this committee would help the council figure out that we have a problem.
There's 2 members.
And we
of the
don't, I'm
committee.
not saying that we do now, I'm just thinking in the future. So we would want the committee to be able to get directly to the council.
That's the role of 2 council representatives, right?
Well, that plus the staff member.
Yeah.
The staff member is there. He's the assistant city manager.
I think what Suzanne is suggesting is, what if Robert's a bad apple?
Or what George is.
Or I'm a bad apple.
Yes.
And as we're having these public committee meetings and the committee's recognizing, hey, we're not really getting true transparent data, or we're looking at these
Or
audit.
the budget's not looking
The
good.
budget's not looking good,
It's
there's a
like
problem.
something's gone off the rails.
Yeah.
So
Who
it's
they
really
talk
more
to?
for that. And that's, I'm not saying that's the situation we have right
So-
now at all.
Is that the
But-
situation,
but-
Robert?
But when we're looking at these charters, I mean, we're checks and balances.
But that's an
Work-based
important
meetings.
point. That's something I always worry about, right? I mean, you know, and when we see problems in other towns, this is how it comes up the most often for me. Is there's a problem in another town, and I go to George and say, what are we doing about this? What is our control mechanism over this issue so that we don't have this? And sometimes we have it and sometimes we don't. And I think we should have a bullet point that addresses that. I think that's a very important point.
Yeah, I think if you want to put it in a bullet point, you certainly can. But you do have, as committee members, the ability to talk to the two liaisons offline and directly about any issue that you see there, as well as the auditor offline and directly. The committee's got the ability to do that. And this came up in 2011 or so, Bill, Elizabeth, with respect to the use of credit cards with staff.
Oh, yeah.
And the finance committee was intimately involved in reshaping the town's procurement policy, credit card use policy, and the oversight over those things. So there was a direct role in making those changes.
That's a good point. That's a place where things can go.
Yeah, I think the one
Plus, we're
thing,
the manager of the park, remember that one.
but I think that the one thing that just got to be very clear on is that any action that is about an employee would be handled through staff and the council and not by the committee. So that the nuance of that is that, yes, you could identify it, but not take action.
Right, I mean, I think it should be clear that it could be identified.
Yeah.
And what to do about it. No, it wouldn't be, you wouldn't want the committee getting involved in personnel actions or anything
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
no power.
In previous lives and other communities, it was more of an issue of the randomness of the council member than it was anybody at the committee. So staff was not the issue.
Right.
I mean, I think I can see ways to get at what I'm worried about through this charter. I just don't know if it will be. It just needs to be clear that you can go to the council.
I feel like that kind of counts for all the committees. If there's a committee feels like their staff is a liaison is a bad actor, I mean, it matters a lot financially, but if there's some misbehavior in the park or whatever, like, I think having some kind of across the board ability for people who are intimately involved with town operations to flag issues
I
is a
mean,
good thing.
I would go to the liaison first if there's a problem with staff.
Yeah.
Liaison can advise whether they want to take it to council or how to proceed from there. And if liaison's unresponsive, then probably have to send it to your council email address, all of it, say, maybe just speaking personally, I have a problem, I see a problem, or maybe if the entire committee agrees, then they can say, okay, Chair, can you write something to the.
So is this an issue that's limited to audit and finance, or should it be included in every committee?
That's just kind of my question. So, I don't know if you guys wanna come up with a.
We'll take a stab at it. I think the direction is that once we make changes to the charter, before it comes back to the council, it makes its way through each of the respective committees for any additional recommendations, and then comes back to the council.
And I'm not trying to be negative or critical in any way.
It's a
I'm
good
just
point.
putting my controllership hat on.
Yeah.
But I think there's actually two separate issues. There's a general staff issue that applies to every committee. But there's also a particular financial issue.
Yes.
Because audit and finance is dealing with money, and big dollar money. And if you don't have the right controls and the auditor misses the need to comment on a lack of control, it's conceivable that a committee member in their review could come up with a concern. That needs to be articulated, because otherwise they just put it to the side. And I do this all the time with George, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and most of it is not relevant. It's studies, like, well, we're addressing that. But on occasion, we go down a direction and put in a new control. And that, we want that from everybody.
I mean, it seems like if the audit and finance committee is doing their job, you as council members can feel confident that if the audit and finance committee is okay with the budget and the audit and the finances and pensions, that you can rest assured that we're okay. Because you might not have that expertise on council at a particular.
So the question I have, would that be a clarification of the role of the vice mayor on that committee? So one of the things about this is because it's so critical and because the concern is about access to the council, the fact that there's only one committee that has the mayor and vice mayor as the only representatives.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Bill's
Two representatives.
Two representatives. It's always the mayor, but it's always the mayor, right?
It's up to the mayor to make all the appointments,
Oh.
but it could be forced to have the mayor always on it, is the policy we could decide here, but
It's a-
like Diana did not put herself
Yeah,
on.
it's not always, it's two
Okay,
people appointed.
I just knew about two times the mayor was. the
Yeah.
person. Okay.
I feel like we understand the charter here from on the website, because I think their charter also serves as our ability to market for new members. For the audit and finance committee, they have a lot of daytime meetings outside of their recurring, or all the budget meetings. I would put some detail on our website about that, so that when people are looking to potentially join, they're aware that they're also signing up for a lot of joint meetings with the city council for the budget that are outside of their normal.
It's a commitment.
It's a commitment.
It really is.
Yeah. Okay, so
Next up
next
is the
committee.
Environmental Programs Committee, which has 2 bullet points. Upon request, make recommendations, both programmatic and legislative, to the city council on all matters pertaining to the town's natural built environment and the town's regional role and responsibilities as one of the communities on the San Francisco Bay Peninsula. Boy, that's long. Second one, pursuant to an established city council program and policy to include the town's climate action plan, assist staff in the creation of proactive community engagement programs for residents, commercial, and public enterprises active within the town's jurisdiction. And with the EPC in the past, it's gone wide, narrow, depending on its membership, the town's policy perspective. And I think the last time the council adjusted these 2 bullet points was to kind of narrow the focus of the EPC mainly to the town's climate action plan and programs and policies that the council has adopted.
So I think it's, if you read the paragraph before A and B, it really does, I think, set forth the role. Because it talks about the town's climate action plan. And I think that is really what the EPC needs to continually focus on, is the town's climate action plan and making sure that we are making progress in there. So, and then I guess doesn't talk about Earth Day.
Yeah.
Why does the OOD have the times that the meetings take place? Is there a
Every
reason?
other month.
Yeah, it's the only one that has that.
The actual larger resolution, I just pulled things out of the resolution. The actual
Oh,
larger
okay.
resolution has that for all of
All
them.
right, got it. All right.
The council used to have Earth Day in this charter. You took it out when you made Earth Day a staff function with EPC input.
Got
The EPC does get input,
Yes.
and they're supposed to be the ones coming up with like secret magical theme sauce of the year, so I feel like that, I mean, that is a big part of that. It's done, so a rephrase of that. Not planning it, they're advising and expected to participate in it and attend it.
So Elizabeth focused us on the first sentence, of the first paragraph, which I think is a very good sentence. And I think it's covered in bullet point B. I think bullet point A goes beyond that. And particularly with respect to the second part of it, which is, and the town's regional roles and responsibilities as one of the communities on the peninsula. That goes beyond the charter of the EPC, I think. The EPCs, I doubt their meetings are looking at how Atherton acts as a regional body in San Mateo County and what our responsibilities are as a regional body within San Mateo County, which is what this clause implies.
It does,
I'm not sure
but-
I understand what that means.
It actually was crafted, I think, to allow the council, because it starts with upon request, to allow the council to direct the EPC to look at AB 32 or to look at the leaf blower law that came down from the state and legislative issues. And so you're saying to the EPC upon request, we want you to look at these things, legislative and programmatic, and how they apply to the town and how the town fits in the region.
So maybe say that instead of this. And its own bullet. That's better.
Like you said.
Yeah, just write that down, George.
And do.
Good job.
Did
All
it.
right.
Can I ask a
Moving
question
on.
about the EPC number A? Is there any reason why upon request is there? Why don't we just remove upon request?
That's a policy call of the council. And I
You can
think
add upon request to the regional stuff, that makes sense.
it was a policy call of the council because they wanted to be able to focus the EPC rather than have it be very broad. At the time that it was revised, there was membership on the EPC that was very broad and the council needed to focus that back.
And give me an example, what was too broad, I'm not,
Looking at nuclear energy, looking at water and hydro and how those affected the town and what the town could do with green infrastructure and make modifications to its underlying plan for green infrastructure, capital improvement projects. It got very broad with respect to EPC's role and overlapped with town policy.
what the confusion I have with that is that it sounds to me like it says, we're gonna tell you what you do, and you guys don't think on your own. Here's the things you're gonna work on. And the way that comes back to me is that we, in some of the meetings recently, we talked about water. And said, water really probably is a bigger thing than we're giving it credit for in the future, because you can't make more water, no one's making more water. And so one of the thoughts was, should we individually on our own, just think about where the water might be used in the town, et cetera, and then come back to the EPC and say, maybe we recommend to the council to look closer at water. Is that appropriate, or is that out of beyond the rails?
Here's the thing, the environmental stuff is, you could boil the ocean, literally, with, just like in the old startups, if you start boiling the ocean, you never get anywhere. But the role of council is to try to make progress happen towards an overall goal. And that means to me that the council says, let's focus on these areas. Yeah, there's all that stuff to work on, and the environmental thing is really big. And that means we run the potential of not getting anything done. So I think keeping in mind the advisory role is that, hey, the council's thinking about this. What do you say about that?
So if we see something beyond what's currently being done in the town, which we think is of value, we should keep our mouth shut.
No, you should talk to staff about bringing it up. There's, just like we did on the planning commission, when there'd be something that was out of the blue, that we go to staff and say, what do you
Okay,
say?
so hold on. So I think we need to talk about water. I think Ken is right, we need to talk about water. We have natural environment in this. When I was on the APC, we got a big presentation from Cal Water about all of their drought initiatives and who asked for our help to market all of their free programs, and I think that falls under the role of the EPC, of thinking about the natural environment. So I think having a bullet in here of having some oversight and thought as to our natural resources that are in the town makes sense. And I think honestly, because the climate action plan does not talk about water conservation, it's very focused on carbon emissions. So I think water is the other half of it, and we should be putting some thought into that there, because there are a lot of Cal Water driven programs that exist that the EPC helps historically market.
But there are ways to put things on the environmental programs or in any committee's agenda that they feel is something they want to discuss. And that way is to raise the issue, colleagues memo, whatever it is, bring it to the attention of the committee. The committee says, yes, that's something we want to talk about. That then goes back to staff. Staff then prepares this brief, high-level report on the issue, brings it back to the next committee meeting. They then talk about the issue. If it's going to involve staff time or resources to conduct investigation, do those other things, then it goes to the city council. City council said, yes, we want you to go down that path, spend the staff time and resources to do it. That's how you move it forward on the committee's agenda. It's not the committee saying, we want to look at it at issue A, unless the council changes this. Issue A, we're gonna go out and do some independent research. We're gonna bring it back to the committee for discussion. We're gonna write the staff report, not us, the committee is, and talk about it. That's not how it's structured presently. If you want to change that, it's up to the council.
So hold on, so for the EPC in particular, because this committee is, it's my beloved committee, it has, it could be a million things, because the climate action plan is a million things, natural environment is a million things. That's partially why I've been wanting to have this annual meeting between the EPC and the city council, so we can collectively narrow the focus of the committee as it sets long-term planning, like 2-3 year planning. So I think, Ken, right now you're operating under, like, the way it has happened before, where there hasn't been a lot of council direction of what the urgent priorities are, will be fixed by having this meeting, so there can be some groupthink as to narrowing what is a massive document, the climate action plan, into what is the council priority, which I think will help focus you guys a little bit.
I think that we could change if we make this change that I'm gonna suggest, I don't think we need upon request, but I think staff may be more comfortable with it in there, and I'm fine with it. I think the first phrase, make recommendations to the council on all matters pertaining to natural and built environment, is important. That includes water, and I don't think we need the rest of that.
I think that's when the George thing is separate bullet, evaluating a regional.
Yeah, there's 3 bullets.
Okay.
Does anyone have any other edits for
So we'd agree on separate bullet for the last half?
the regional?
There's the first one, which is upon.
Oh,
request, make
I would say
recommendations.
take it out, because I don't think it's relevant.
The second bit, yeah.
The EPC commenting on the town's regional role in San
So
Mateo
let me
County.
just bring
I
up
get
the comment that George said about that, like discussing like SB, a regional bill, Senate bill having to do with certain environmental things. That would be a regional topic.
So just put on.
But it deals with natural or
No, the town's regional role
Bill.
and responsibilities as one of the communities on San Francisco.
Well, leaf blowers, for example, was state legislation. The town could choose to ban them locally, not ban them locally, do something different, and can still be compliant with state law. That's sort of a regional thing, because one of the things the council asked for was, what are the other cities doing?
but that's a regional thing related to the built and natural environment. So the real issue is the built and natural environment.
Well, so I think the tie-in, so I would say break it off in a separate bullet, but start that bullet on request. So when something would come up brand new, like there could be something around water that, how are you gonna handle the runoff or whatever? The committee might be able to look at that.
Well, what if there's something around how you deal with ice?
Well, I think upon request.
I see, you mean the immigration?
Oh, no,
No,
But that's accounted,
Oh.
if ice came into San Mateo County like ice came into Minnesota,
right.
there's gonna be a bunch of cities that are gonna be engaged in some kind of reaction, and there's gonna be coordination efforts.
Well,
That's a very real potential
But how is
issue.
that environmental? How's
It's
that-
not, that's why I don't think we should have this in here. It's not relevant for E EPC.
Plus, when we look at what we're going to do, we made decisions that everybody else wasn't making decisions at that time. So I don't really feel that, the issue with the regional responsibilities and the regional direction is pertinent. It may be something that would be included in the staff report just to answer questions. but I don't think that, this implies that we're going to have our EPC people participate in regional type of activities, and I don't think that that's their role.
The council.
Okay, so
Figure it out.
let's just take it up.
Right, I got that direction.
Feels like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
What if it's kind of like, countywide garbage cleanup or something, event? And that we would want to rally around our citizens to participate in, like Mayor Matt had, at his State of the Union, State of the City, talk, he had all this masses of residents coming in their dungarees to clean up, and clean off graffiti from around the, town on, last Saturday. And then he did his State of it. So, but, that's 1 million, people, city, it's different.
That falls under the
B.
proactive community engagement.
B.
Yeah.
Covered, he covered.
Okay, take it out. So that we know that we can do something, bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, I think we should declare ourselves a sanctuary city for billionaires.
Anyways, so I also would add.
So we don't have to tax the wealth.
That would be fun.
To yourself.
We need more sugar.
Okay,
We need more sugar.
we're off the rails. So I would say my last change, which we talked about, but I don't think we maybe remember, is that Earth Day, advising staff on the theme and participating in Earth Day
Right.
should be in the description because that is still part of the agency.
okay, and just for clarification, the staff just advised that the fourth focus in the climate action plan is carbon sequestration, never can say that word correctly, and water use. So it is within the town's climate action plan. as a plan.
Great, okay. You
Okay.
guys have any other changes? Okay,
and Rec.
cool.
Park and
Parks
Rec.
and Rec.
They consist of A through G, upon request, make recommendation to the council all matters pertaining to the town's active and passive park and public recreation services. Work with staff as needed, assist other governmental agencies, public and private groups in advancement of park and recreation planning and programming. Not sure where that comes into play. Work with staff to develop and maintain a master plan for active and passive recreational spaces in the town. Annually in the month of April, present a report to the city council. Work with staff to review the annual budget for town's park and rec programs. There is an annual walkabout in the park for that. Assist staff with a review of fees and services within the park and make recommendations with respect thereto. And upon request, study and make recommendations on the acquisition and development of recreation areas. Goes a little further on open space. And assist staff in the planning of recreation programs for the community.
It's a big community. A lot of responsibility, Alex.
That's why we have 7 people. It's a lot of work.
So I'm not really sure what the relevance of B is.
Yeah, the question mark. after.
Work with staff as needed to assist other governmental agencies and public and private groups in advancement of park and recreation planning and programming. Where do we have those people go out and work with Menlo Park on what they should be doing in their park? I think B should be gone.
Well, I would say pickleball is when we work with a private group of individuals that wanted to get pickleball going in a trial. But in terms of working, say, with Redwood City or Menlo Park, I guess it's a possibility that we could to, say, group programming together, maybe open up their Parks and Recs program for Atherton residents, because we're kind of a small community. We probably will never have a decent sized Park and Recs group, and maybe we can join with them or with the county.
I think that would be a council decision.
Yes, it would be a council
It
decision.
wouldn't be Park and Rec working with staff and other governmental agencies. I think B should be gone.
Yeah, when I read that, I focused not so much on the other governmental agencies, but on the private groups. Because Park and Rec has always had some involvement with renting the facilities in the park. And I think that Park and Rec hasn't gotten clear direction from the council about exactly what the council's priorities are with respect to the objectives related to rentals. And that'll be a benefit of having a joint meeting that focuses on the subject. The question here is it part of the charter of Park and Rec to work with staff to assist private groups in the advancement of planning and programming, really programming in the park?
What I see when you're mentioning that, that's like when Encinal School wants to have that event over that they have at the end of the year. And that comes to the council because they're asking for not only have use of the park, but also have use of the park at a reduced price. And that comes to the council. It doesn't go to Park and Rec, and it didn't even start at the Park and Rec. It was a direct request by that agency to the city manager.
George, can you think of any examples of B?
The government
in your
leases one
era?
is hard. I mean, Bill's example is a good one. There's certainly some private groups out there that Park and Rec can assist staff with helping evaluate the handball courts and conversion of the handball courts to pickleball courts. That's a private vendor out there that might be working on that, or the tennis program or the pickleball program.
Little League,
Little League, right, lots of private groups.
Anyways.
So can we clean up that description, because you guys have, sounds like there are private groups that work with Parks and Rec.
The public and governmental ones will usually matriculate up through staff to the council.
So just make it private and take out governmental agencies.
Private would be Players Capital.
Also, like whatever event manager group we go
There's
with,
interaction there too.
Play school.
play school.
Just leave private and take the other two out.
Well, doesn't the play school come just directly to the council?
They come to the council for their lease, but if they have other activities or events, they would go to the, correct?
They give an annual report
They
to
do
Park
an
and
annual
Rec.
report, exactly.
Oh, they do, okay.
We're even upon requesting on this one? On the pay?
Yeah, of course, everything's always on.
I know, but we took it out on the other one, so I'm just wondering,
I would take it out.
you would take it out? Yeah, I don't see any reason to have it in. I had a question on D.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
I would leave it in. Case in point, the council made the decision on the park coordinator. And it was our decision. And, you know, there were members of Park and Rec that felt that they needed to make a recommendation themselves. And they weren't requested to. And so I think upon request is important there. So there are certain things that, you know, the city manager and the council make a decision on, and then that's it. You know, we can't go back and forth on things, and it can't have a bunch of angst with regards to, well, you guys didn't invite us or you didn't ask us. So I do believe that upon request is necessary. It's really, you know, that's what the committee's for. The committee's got a bunch of other things to do. You know, they got through G, so.
I don't, yeah, I just thought that we were trying to be consistent. I had a question on D. And it has to do with, is there any connection with the finance team on this bullet? Or is it just up through staff and then over to finance? If there's something there, is that the way it works?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I understood it more than that, but suggesting. Okay.
Yeah, typically we meet with finance once a year to go over the budget and discuss.
So it does happen.
Yeah, we just meet with them. We don't necessarily.
Committee with
Finance director.
Finance,
Robert.
Robert Van, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
No, yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
and
joint.
then,
All right.
and then Rick, make sure it gets.
All right, got it. That's why I just want to make sure there was a connection. All right, cool.
There's a few things that when we do have our annual meeting together that I think the committee would like clarification on is, the town center area is a place of recreation. And whether the council wants us to look at it sometime in the future or now, that would be good to get clarification on. In the past, I think it's not something we've been asked to do, and council hasn't given us direction just to look at it yet, so I'd like to know if that is the case. We don't have to make a decision now. Whether we want to organize our recreation, park and recreation, and have an activity guide like other communities have every year, like River City and Menlo Park. I get it in the mail, and my child goes to a lot of those programs, but our programs are kind of all over the place. Quarterly, we get the Ethiconian, and then some of them get talked about there, and then some you never hear about, but maybe having something aggregate all the community services, like other communities, might be something we might want to do. And then also for the April annual update, is it something you guys still want? And if so, what do you want that staff doesn't tell you? Because, and I could come in and just tell you what the staff already has told you, but that's just wasting your time. But if there's something that you want me or the committee to uniquely prepare that you don't regularly get from staff, we can do so, but I just need some direction what you guys want.
There shouldn't be the duplication of stuff that we get. So we get monthly the revenue reports, what activities are there, how much tennis stuff is there. So it's kind of a waste of your time to regurgitate it because we see it every month. And, but.
It was more of a question, what would you guys like to hear about the park? Because I can think of things, but it'd be more valuable if you told us what you want to know about, and then we could do a little bit of research and put something together.
Good point.
It's like a
think about it.
great item for our group.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff gets given to us, and the same thing with status on, for example, the playground, things like that. We get that from.
Yeah. So there's no need for me to regurgitate, like I used to do when I did give this presentation, just to cover what we did in the past year. You guys know all about that, so.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like, and I get no questions because I go, okay, you guys probably know that.
It was always a very fast presentation.
Yes, so I'm just thinking, maybe I should just not waste my time and you guys not waste your time. But if there is something you want from us, then let us know.
Alex, I just want to circle back to something that I think I heard you say, and I want to make sure that I understood. That we were talking about the town center now.
Yes.
And maybe folding that into the Park and Rec umbrella of programming. Is that right?
That was
Yeah,
his
yeah.
question that he wants us to give direction on
Yeah,
at some point.
We talked about
That's
that
an
one time
interesting,
before.
that's a good question to
it
ask.
is a very good question, yeah.
It's
Pop
just,
that on
I mean,
that
this
agenda.
has become
so we've been,
quite a hub.
These
yeah,
things
our
are
committee was
so
told
fun.
that, not at that time, don't need to look at it, but if it's something you guys change your mind on in the future, just let us know. That's just all I'm asking, right? So when we have our annual meeting, we can discuss, and if you guys want to change, that's fine.
All right, good point.
Okay, Rick had something.
I think that the reason for Park and Rec's sort of special presentation to the council is because the park is a cost center outside of a really managed staff area, right? Like our biggest cost center is obviously the police. It's completely managed by staff, and administration and the town center, cost centers, facilities, all of that is managed by staff and public works, the streets. But we don't have a park manager in staff. We have vendors, and public works to some degree gets involved with the park, and there are different things going on in the park. And all of that comes to Park and Rec. So Park and Rec ends up kind of being a focal point before the council for issues related to this fairly, on one hand, significant cost center. On the other hand, it's the crown jewel of the town, right? I mean, it's this 22-acre parcel that is truly an amazing parcel that we were given. And Park and Rec oversees it more than any individual. So I think that's why
I think Robert Obadia and his team
well,
is really the park.
We actually have a park manager, that's Will. sitting
Will,
here.
yeah,
Corner over there.
yeah. So I just want to bring that up, 'cause
Will is the liaison to Park and Rec.
Right.
And he gives all kinds of direction, he prepares all the reports. But I think that the reason that Park and Rec reports to the council is it's such a significant piece of the town.
I think Robert has.
All right.
Sorry to
Sorry.
interject.
No.
I'm gonna say, from a day-to-day perspective, Will manages the park, makes sure that we maintain everything. The committee does, helps us understand where there are issues, and we take that input. They also do their walkthroughs to point out not just, I'll call it general maintenance stuff that are taken care of through our maintenance budget, but they have ideas of where improvements can be. And so I think that the timing of that April meeting is an opportunity for them to bring forward larger capital needs or other issues that they see in the park that can feed into the budget. Okay, so it's not just the park manager issue. I think that the timing of that meeting allows for information to come to the council as to where investment might be worthwhile.
Will that April presentation come in time for CIP recommendations?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say that,
Yeah,
the
those
hope
happen
is
in
that the committee is often talking with staff and public works about where those focus areas are. And I think that as we move forward, not just this coming year, but in the future, we have on the books, potential update of the park master plan. And so that also will feed into those conversations.
On to the last committee.
Do we have any other changes or questions about the description? No? Great, all right.
On to the last one, which is the longest laundry list of tasks.
Groups.
So
Why do we win bullet points?
upon request, make recommendations to the council pertaining on all matters pertaining to transportation, traffic, and roadway safety. As needed, assist staff in the identification and review of traffic and roadway safety enhancements. As needed, assist staff in review of regional project impacts on local traffic and corridors. As needed, assist staff in review of traffic enforcement measures. As needed, assist staff in review of the neighborhood traffic management program. Requests work with staff in providing recommendations on the bicycle pedestrian master plan. Make recommendations to the city council on the selection of bike ped improvements to be submitted for state and federal funding. Work with staff to promote bicycle and walking as safe and healthy alternative modes. And assist town staff in the planning, operations, and maintenance of bike ped facilities. Some of those could probably be merged together.
You took transportation bullets and bike ped bullets and just didn't.
Yeah. So what is, planning operations, the last one, what does that really mean? What kind of facilities do we have in,
Every bike lane,
facilities,
yes.
bike lanes,
Right.
okay.
And the street furniture, yeah.
And street furniture.
What
What
street
do we have?
furniture?
We have benches?
No, speed humps.
Oh, speed hump.
Oh,
I didn't know it was the furniture.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been going to the wrong store.
I'm gonna go get some humps.
Explain what is.
See, as we assist staff in review regional projects.
Elizabeth.
So that's the El Camino corridor study, the regional middle field improvements that go on. Those might have local impacts. Marsh Road is a corridor if 101 is closed. So you've got that corridor that opens up and redirects people through down Littlefield Road. Those sorts of projects.
They would both fit into either A or B, right?
Yes.
So I guess it's more just a review, like that's more like information share.
It is, and many of our transportation, bicycle, pedestrian safety projects of Alameda de las Pulgas, the bike lanes and speed humps, they all matriculate up through Park and Rec, or up through this committee first. And they make a recommendation to the city council, because the council is always gonna ask, has that committee looked at it before you make a policy decision on it?
So C is like El Camino Real, and then D is like any street in Atherton, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Right.
And they could probably be merged together.
Feel like,
But it looks to me like both C and D are covered by A and B.
Yeah, A is very, very broad.
All matters.
And bicycle in there, and good to go.
Yeah, we should add bicycle in.
Well, we hit bicycle with several of later.
I mean, but if you add bicycle in A. Then
Knock out.
And pedestrian.
Yeah, pedestrian, yeah,
aren't we saying active transportation now?
we are.
So I'm assuming we win the bullet point.
You do.
Yes, you do.
Because of the merger of
Yeah.
transportation.
Probably true.
Yes, yes.
I kind of feel like instead of us wordsmithing, maybe
This
you
is
guys,
maybe one we could.
yeah,
solve.
and then the committee reviews it and then it comes back to us, because I think there's not as much confusion about what the role of this committee is, because it's,
Yeah, that's a good idea. We can certainly do that. And I think I'm taking direction from the council that these would go back through the committees before they make their way back up to the council.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know, and do you guys have like a substantive feedback about the first, like, it's just long and redundant, so like, that's a stop.
Well, I'd say A, B, E, and F are, I mean, F is really focused on the master plan. Like, sort of like the Park and Rec that focused on the Park and Rec master plan. G seems relevant. H and I may be able to be included in A and B.
There's nothing offensive here, there's nothing that we don't do,
No, that's right.
but,
I agree.
as a
Just
person
merge
with
the list
just one
from every
brain,
committee.
it'd be very hard to keep all of these things in mind.
Yeah.
It also makes it feel like bikes are an afterthought, because they're the last bullets.
And it's important to have them in there
Yeah.
because
They
I
work
think
together.
parts of this committee are required under some county transportation and things for the bicycle pedestrian and bicycle committee, which would merge as part of these two.
Cool.
How we doing there?
Okay.
Okay,
Made it through all committees, do you have
motion to
anything
adjourn.
else?
Not really, I mean, we approach things pretty much as nuts and bolts. Staff brings us stuff, we consider it, we give our opinions, you get our opinions. And we don't hesitate to come up with new stuff. We've got people out there on bicycles, that here's a problem here, and we'll make suggestions.
When's our next meeting?
Well, speed bumps are delineations.
I thought they were furniture.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
they can be
street
back to-
furniture.
So
So we'll
we'll,
come back to council.
staff's gonna take a stab at making the revisions we talked about today. And then staff liaisons will take those through each of the respective committees. Before it makes its way back to council, the committees can provide additional input and suggestions, and then it'll come back to the council for final adoption.
So as chairs, we should schedule that as an item for our next week. Okay.
So for transportation committee, their annual meeting will probably be the review of the new active transportation plan, because that's gonna be coming in front of the council this year, right?
It's supposed to make its way forward, Robert, active transportation plan?
We'll be bringing items to the committee at their March meeting to review and discussion feedback. And then, from there, we'll see about getting it scheduled.
It
And
feels like
that's the
that
most
could be
workflow side
Probably
of
in a
it?
study session.
Pardon?
I said we probably would want to do that in a study session, and that could be the joint meeting.
Do that. Two birds.
exactly with a structure, a plan for us to review.
And then this committee, as David mentioned, sees a broad number of issues related to the town's public infrastructure out there. Their primary focus at some point might be bicycles and pedestrians and active transportation. Other than that, it might also be the PD, which is they come out of the police department, they're the staff liaison. So it's also public safety related, not burglaries, but more traffic.
And with SB 79 and SB 1120,
free, you may be more active.
Stop sign, speed hump,
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff.
And the GI,
Yeah.
GIS
Cool.
facility
All right.
just got.
Okay, guys.
All set.
Anyone have anything that we did not touch that you want to?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to bring it
Yeah.
about kind of.
Great, let's talk about, let's take your thoughts.
All the sign, should we have some draft?
End this meeting.
Thank you for your time.